Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion. And you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in a snowy Green Bay, Wisconsin, where he said it's a little difficult to pull out of the driveway. The snowbanks are so high over there now. Tim, you been out there shoveling today? Is it snow blowing? Is it shoveling? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above, man. It's that real powdery, pretty looking stuff, but man, once it piles up, man, it compacts and it gets pretty heavy. So, we're getting round 2 right now, having fun. Nothing like winter in Green Bay, baby.
I hear you, man. Well, winter in Tennessee and Kentucky is floods everywhere, so that's what's going on down here. Everybody posted on Facebook, the backyard's filled with water. So, but hopefully that'll subside here. I think
that's definitely worse to deal with than snow. I'll tell you that. I'll take the snow all day over the water.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, man. It can be a pain. But hopefully I think that's supposed to move out. Here, it should have already eased up back home in Kentucky, and then I think it's going to move out or move back in the morning. So hopefully those waters can subside a little bit before the second wave hits, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Fred McFarley says he's just here so he don't get fined. That's a good move right there, Mr. Fred.
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
We got Blake B in the house. Said the stomach flu just hit my 2 daughters and wife the last 48 hours. I'm the last one here waiting to turn into Josh Myers in the Colts game. I think that's worse than being sick, Blake, is knowing you're up next, right?
Yep.
It's the old meme where it shows the Grim Reaper walking in the hallway, knocking on the doors, Tim. You know, you're the next one in the house. It's about to hit you. So that's a tough feeling, man, for sure.
We're going to have to send them a football to puke on, you know.
Exactly. All right, let's jump into the news here, man, as Rob Demovsky put an article out. I think it was earlier today, and he had a quote in it that caught everybody's attention. And Tim, we've been waiting for the news to drop on Jaire. They're going to restructure. That could come any day now, pretty much. You're already seeing teams that are setting post June 1st designations to be released. Obviously, there are players that are requesting trades. Rob Demovsky had an interesting quote in a tweet that I read earlier today on ESPN.com. It said, quote, multiple team sources have privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. The first part of that, I go, okay, everybody's frustrated with injuries. But that second part there, play through injuries, that kind of got my attention a little bit. So normally I roll my eyes at this type of stuff because obviously there's not a source attached to it. But the last one I remember happening like this was Aaron Rodgers, where it was multiple team sources, right? Same type of scenario there, are fed up with Aaron Rodgers and they're ready to move on, right? I remember that being, I think that came from, it wasn't Tyler Dunn, it was Bob McGinn. And I remember rolling my eyes at it. Then the next thing you know, bang, Goody starts shopping him while he was in the darkness retreat. So that's what kind of grabbed my attention on this, like I said, this quote from Rob Demovsky's article. I want to kind of get everybody's take on it. Do you guys think this is just hot air? There's no doubt in my mind someone told Rob that. Now, the question is it true? Are they, as we all refer to this type of year, it's lying season. And that's not to say that a reporter will go out and blatantly lie. It's just simply everybody's sharing information to get a leg up on the other person. Some of it may be accurate, some of it not so accurate, some of it might be just a filler out there, that type of thing. What's your take on this, Tim? You got anything you want to add? And I want to see what the chat's got to say.
I think it's true, and I think everybody knows that. I don't think anyone wants to publicly say it, which is why there's no name source, and it's kind of inside baseball here. But it is. It's frustrating. The inability to stay healthy part, that's called, running in front of a train every day for a living. That just comes with playing football. But the gritting through or playing through an injury part that could be kind of, I'm sure John might take that one a little personally, right? Those are kind of fighting words in this league. You're kind of, testing a guy's, manhood there. Are you willing to grit through it kind of thing? But, maybe Ja's just one of those guys that would rather be safe than sorry, and he'll push it. We saw him do that in the Chicago game, the first time around down in Chicago. He tried to go and basically had a setback with that knee. Tried to play through it. It got worse. So I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, yeah, it's probably a true statement. If anything, this probably leads more fuel to the Ja's probably not going anywhere conversation, right? If it's going to be tough to shop him for a trade, maybe he ends up in Green Bay on a restructured deal.
Yeah, like I said, man, there were multiple people hitting me up going, "Hey, have you heard anything about this?" And there was a screen grab of a meme that someone had made that the Packers and Jaire have already agreed to a restructure, and that hasn't been released yet. I definitely didn't believe that because there's no source attached. There's not even sources close to the team said it was just simply a meme, right? Like just a graphic with the caption on it. But yeah, man, the whole playing through the injury thing, like I said, that's what caught my attention. Let's see what the chat's saying about it here. Ron Sambo in the house says, Matt was clearly frustrated with the situation. I agree with that. And we're trying to read between the lines. Is he mad at Ja? Is he mad at the medical staff? Is he just mad at the situation in general? It could be all of the above too, right?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
You could definitely sense some frustration from Matt LaFleur, and rightfully so, man. You feel like you played it safe, and then you didn't even get him for the rest of the year. That's a little frustrating. Maybe you go out and make another move if you know a little more definitively he's not going to play, right? And that whole situation is obviously going to bring out the maximum level of frustration. Drew D says, remember when LaFleur said he has no clue what was going on with Jaire and was upset? Exactly, right?
Yep.
So, and again, you couple that. This isn't just what Drew brung up. This isn't just what Ron mentioned. This is also taking into effect the last thing Josh said when he left the locker room on cleanout day was, I don't have anything good to say. And he left, right? It's essentially, I think that's how that was reported. It was either by Rob or it was by Jason Wilde. So, sooner or later, man, if the whole damn locker room's filled with smoke, there's got to be a fire somewhere, right?
Yep.
Prince in the chat, not the kind of thing you want circulating if you're trying to trade him. That's a great point there, Prince. Great point. Obviously, that's not going to drive up the value. Now, here's the thing, too. Goody could have already called around, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's rare that does not leak out, although when you leak that information out, you're typically leaking it for a reason, right? If hey, he's on the trading block, if the team leaks that out, he wants the rest of the league to know without calling them, hey, this guy's available. If the player leaks it out, then it's, hey, let's try to drum up some activity for it. The fact that there's been no talk about that, that's a little odd to me. And like Prince says here, man, now you get something like this. It's like, and what you mean by that is it's real simple. If the team doesn't plan on keeping them, if there's zero chance the Packers keep them, and I'm not saying that's the case, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. If that is the case, then teams are going to sit back and like, well, let's just pick him up. Let's just sign him. Wait till they cut him. They're going to cut him, right? That type of thing. So I don't know, man. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays on the Packers either, with that that other rumor going around that they were talking restructure already. To me, going into the offseason, that seemed like the most likely scenario because, again, the knock with Jaire isn't his lack of play, his level of play, I should say. It's that he's, been injured. He hasn't been available. So if you restructure the deal and do it in a way that's incentive-based, that, hey, if you play this many games or play this many snaps, you hit a certain level of pay, that might be the way to handle it too, right? But who knows, right? So, again, just wanted to mention that right off the cuff here because that really did catch my attention in that article, and I didn't know if I was just overreacting or what, but I threw it out there. Of course, there's the smart asses on Twitter who respond, well, of course, this is a big nothing burger. Nothing's changed, of course. And it's like, okay, got it, bub. Got it.
Slow news time, man. We gotta hang on to what we got out here,
Not only that, it's just like, to me, this is new news.
Right.
The people that are saying this isn't new news, I'm going, okay, so you're telling me it was already common knowledge that multiple people within the building were frustrated with Jaire and the fact that he couldn't play through injuries? You're telling me that's not new news? First time I've heard that.
Yeah.
They said they were frustrated about the injury, but nobody specifically saying, obviously frustrated about him not playing through the injuries. So, All right, so there is your Ja update. We'll keep a close eye on that as we're sitting here, February 15th. You're going to have something start to shake loose here real soon. We're either going to hear a restructure. I'm thinking somewhere between the 20th to the 25th is when you'll start to see those restructures trickle in. They may delay them to the 26th or 27th, but if he gets a restructured contract, obviously there's a really, really good chance he's staying. If that deal doesn't get restructured, don't be surprised if he's on the chopping block to be cut or traded. So.
Very true. I didn't think about it that way. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, Prince in the chat. Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say we might figure out something before it's even official, just by kind of using that as a guideline. That's really smart.
Yeah. Prince in the chat says, Ja was happy with the addition of McKinney, and I'm not sure if he suddenly soured on the team. I didn't get the vibe that he soured on the team. I think it was just the injury. And listen, if we're going off precedent, and you guys know that's something I try to always mix into the equation, the thing that ticked Zadarius Smith off when he left Green Bay, other than not being named a captain, ironically, Jaire was also upset he wasn't named a captain too. That's pretty wild, right? But with Zadarius, he said when he got hurt, he felt like he wasn't a part of the team. It was like they just shoved him off to the side. And, my rebuttal to that is, man, you're trying to win football games. Like, you don't have time to go over here and pet and coddle someone. It's obvious now Zadarius Smith has to be coddled. I mean, you've seen the ring he bought himself this year, right, in the offseason. That dude's just he's just a weird guy. He seems like a strange dude. So I don't know, man. When that happened with him, it's kind of bringing up, I don't know, similar feelings, I guess you could say. Let's see what Deadfish says. He said, if I was Ja and tried to play and could not, I would not want to talk about it. The media wants to talk when he can't help, and we just lost in the playoffs. I would not want to talk either. So Deadfish is saying big nothing burger that he said that in the locker room, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could be, too. Could be the case. Could be just, hey, man, there ain't nothing good coming out of this. Remember your mama used to tell you, Tim, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all?
Don't say nothing at all. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we just run with it when he makes a comment like that, and we read between the lines and read things that aren't necessarily written,
Right.
And I've always been with Deadfish. That's been my vibe from Ja is, any frustration or anything isn't with, being a Green Bay Packer. It's with the fact that he's been, inconsistently available. And it was a frustrating way to end the season, man, for everyone,
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. Fred McFarley said, re-listen / watch Kraft's end of season presser. That's a good point, too, as Tucker Kraft was like, I'm paraphrasing very, very heavy, but what I took away from what Tucker Kraft said was, I'm going to start being a leader. Yeah. This isn't good enough.
He said, Maddie, fire up the forklift, man. We got some work to do. Let's go.
Forklift certified, baby. So, yeah, I'm excited about people like Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft, and obviously on defense, Xavier McKinney, and now Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper needs to go out there and put a quarter of a season together, right off the bat. And then he needs to become vocal. He needs to be that dude in the middle of that defense leading. Because the way he played last year was, again, I've said it over and over, guys. I've been a Packer fan since 03, around that time, 02, 03. I have never seen an inside linebacker play the way Edgerrin Cooper played last year. And those limited snaps, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like it was this entire season because they were easing him in. I haven't personally seen that. Clay Matthews is the closest thing to it when they kicked him from edge to inside linebacker. And even with that, Clay didn't play like that. And when you've got that current credibility as a player on the field, you've got to be able to maximize that. And if I'm Coach Half and I'm Coach LaFleur, I'm going to a handful of guys and going, this is your team, take control. The problem is, let's say Ja was causing some stink behind the scenes. I don't know if he was. I'm not putting that on. There's many fans that believe that. I think we would all agree, right? If that's the case, he was looked at as a team leader. And you go, how can you say that, Clayton? Look at the paycheck. That's how that stuff is determined in the locker room. Those players are looking at other players that are making absolute bank and going, okay, that's the dude that I'm following right there. He's the guy with the big paycheck. He's the guy that they put all the trust in the organization in to give that kind of money. Kenny does a good job of that off the field, I think. A great job of that off the field. It's just on the field here recently that's kind of played into that cultural downfall where you can almost feel like, too, Kenny feels like he's probably limited. Kenny knows that he played bad.
Yeah.
I guarantee he's not sitting back going, nope, I couldn't have done anything better. He's definitely not that type of person,
Yep.
So, all right. So I think we have one more here. Drew said, the team isn't necessarily right, by the way. The team pressured Love into playing injured and getting further injured. The Watson thing aggravated me more, Drew, than the Love. The Love thing is like, okay, you got two options. You shut him down for over half the season, or you let him play on it and kind of manage the game, right? And he tried to do that. Obviously, he wasn't as mobile this year. They didn't go under center as much. Given the situation, with hindsight being 2020 and us now knowing Love was that hurt, pretty damn good year from the offense, seeing that your quarterback was banged up all year long,
Yep.
Now, the Christian Watson thing, and they said Christian wanted to play and he pressured the team into letting him play. That's something where, as an organization, Tim, you got to
put your foot down.
Yeah, you got to go. No way, bub. You're too important.
Yep.
We got to wait till it's right, man. That sucks, Tim.
Yeah, because that's really what it is. Like when you think about why wouldn't someone want to just try and play through an injury? It's because you're risking your career and your livelihood. I mean, if you screw that knee up all the way, I mean, you don't know what kind of setback you could have. Mm-hmm. I remember us talking about Jaire at first. Oh, is it a sprain? Is it this? It's like, well, it was a PCL injury, relatively serious, right? So, and then with Scoot, obviously, my goodness, you're dealing with one knee, and now you pick up a new one in a game that you didn't need to be out there. And so you're right. As an organization, at a certain point, you've got to be willing to let that player be a little pissed at you that you had to put your foot down and say, hey, not today. It just is what it is. But it goes both ways, man. You want guys to push themselves and grit through things. It's like that old quote, are you hurt or are you injured? Well, if you're hurt, you can keep playing. If you're injured, you probably should go to the sidelines. So I think it's just a matter of really knowing the difference and, what's worth grinding through and what's not,
Right. Ron Samuel says Watson's dad said he chose to play injured. He absolutely did. Like I said, he pressured the organization into letting him play. What I'm saying is, if I'm putting myself in the organization's shoes, he's not playing in that game. And he's just going to have to understand that. Like, but listen, if you go out there now and you blow your knee up and you're out for 3/4 of the season next year because we rushed you back in a meaningless game against the Bears. That was the Bears, right, Tim? Am I remembering that?
I believe so. Yeah.
The
one that got hurt.
Yep. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. I think it was the Bears.
It was the Bears, yeah.
Yeah, who gives a rat's ass about that game? Let's see if he can get healthy for the playoffs, right? And this isn't a hindsight 2020. We were going, man, I hope Watson plays this week. We were saying exactly what we're saying now. We were saying the week before is like, it is not worth it to risk that. So
we got the doctor in here. Dr. Holmes says you cannot play through structural injury. Mm-hmm. You are expected to play hurt, and that's kind of like what I was saying, right?
Right.
You've seen that. We saw that with Scoot earlier in the year with the ankle, or the shin or whatever that was. He took a cleat, and we thought, oh my God, that looked nasty. And he got right back up, missed a play or two, and was back on the field. It's not a big deal to play hurt, but injury is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, no, and the PCL. One thing that Christian Watson's brother did a good job of talking about, and this was in reference earlier in the season to Jaire Alexander, was he was talking about how he had to play through a PCL, and he was like, it isn't just that you're playing hurt. That's like Holmes is saying here, man, structural. It was a big deal. There's no doubt in my mind that, and here's the thing, Ja did try to play through it. As this report says here, not being able to play through injuries. He tried to play through it and he hurt it again. Yep. So we gotta.
And that's when all this really started, right? That's when it was like weeks of missing games.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Let's see here. Adam Block, didn't Jordy get an ACL in a preseason game? Yes, he did.
Did.
Against the
man, dude, that's worse than the Christian Watson one, man. I'm sorry.
My gosh, it's horrible, dude.
Like, what?
Absolutely horrible. Because as soon as he went down to, I was at Beef O'Brady's eating some awesome wings and drinking a daddy soda, watching this game with a good friend of mine who's a big Pittsburgh fan. It's a preseason game. We can get together for that one. We ain't going to be cussing each other. You know what I mean? It's just preseason. as soon as Jordy caught that ball, it was kind of like a short curl, if I remember correctly, and he tried to cut up field. As soon as he hit the turf, I threw the wing down on the plate. And he went, "Oh, yeah, is that Jordy down?" I went, "That's an ACL." That's exactly what I said. That's an ACL. And sure enough, man, by the end of the game, that's what they were reporting. Like, it looks like it may be an ACL. Like, God, so
Hey, you
frustrating.
talk about playing hurt and playing through injuries, though. Like, let's put some spec on Jordy's name here, because that dude was as gritty as they get. You remember that playoff game when he shattered his ribs? He took a crown of the helmet right to the ribs on the sideline going up to make a catch. And dude puts on a flak jacket and comes out next week and plays with broken ribs the whole game. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, do they make them like that anymore? I don't know.
I have never broken a rib, but people that I know that have, they're like, you have no idea the pain. And the fact that he put on a flak jacket and went out there and still tried.
And got hit and continued to play football.
Oh.
Aaron wasn't throwing him very many high ones that day, though, if I remember correct. He was trying to help him a little.
Exactly. Ron Sample says, wouldn't a doctor have cleared Watson to play? You would think so. But again, we're not in the building, right? And in the past, the Packers have been – here's the other side of it too. And we got to be fair. We really got to be fair here in this whole conversation. In the past, we as fans – I know I've been guilty of it, Tim. Maybe you disagree. There's been times I'm like, these damn Packers doctors are just too conservative. They are just – man, it just seems like – other teams will send their guys out there, and if they have one little sign of an injury, there's absolutely no chance they'll play. This year felt like we were a little more aggressive, and boy, it bit us in the ass. So I'm going to shut my mouth in that regard moving forward. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see here. Anything else in the chat? Yeah, and I don't want to get too negative in here, guys. I see all the comments, and I appreciate y'all joining the conversation and everything. Yeah, I just don't want to dog too many players or pile on Ja. I know there's some people that think he's kind of I don't like using that word either. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but there's a word that gets attached to a player like he's of the team. And, again, I just don't want this show to be like that. You know what I mean? But we are going to report things like this as it comes down to puck, and that's what we got on Ja so far. Hopefully, again, man, I hope it works out for Ja. I hope it works out for us, If that is, hey, to go in opposite, going opposite direction, so be it. If it's Ja coming back on a restructured deal, great. I just think it makes a lot of sense to try to tie maybe a snap or a game count to the contract if he does come back. And if he has a problem with that, then he needs to understand, hey, brother, I mean, yes, you got hurt, but you've gotten paid your full amount for playing less than half of the snaps the last 3 years. You got to look at it from where we're coming from too. It's a business transaction. So, Tim, you remember me telling you about Howie Roseman getting clocked in the head with the beard?
Oh man, we got the tape.
The footage here. Look at this right here, boys. Just coming down the pipe.
Oh my gosh,
bro! It cuts his forehead too. His forehead was cut the rest of the time. Let's go slow motion, can we?
You're terrible.
This is like the Zapruder film.
First of all, blue tent. He's got to go to the blue tent. We got to test him for concussion.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Let's take it back here. Watch this, boys. Look at this thing. Somebody hung
back into the left. Back into the left.
Oh, it hurts though. And it wasn't warm in Philly. It was chilly, right?
Yeah. That was probably a frozen daddy soda. Whew.
I mean, that was just a direct bang. Back.
Yeah, he caught. That's what it is. Right. He caught the business end of that can there.
Oh, he did.
You see that right around the edge of the rim there? That's what did it.
Hey, but nothing but respect for Howie Roseman. The next picture you seen, he was smoking a cigar with a big cut on his forehead. Like, hey, the party goes on, Tim. That's the way that works.
Fred McFarley said that came straight off a sloped roof.
It sure did. It sure did. All right, let's see. Next thing on Twitter here. I got tagged in this from a follower. I think I'm following him back as well. It's Pro Football Hall of Fame Ambassador is the name, and I think he actually does have a little something to do with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Shout out to him. The full Twitter handle is at PFHOF Ambassador, so make sure you go give him a follow. He tagged me and a few people on here. He said, Rashawn Gary, Packers defensive end, recorded a team-leading 7.5 sacks in 2024, his 5th consecutive season with 5+ sacks. In his last 55 starts, Gary has 32 sacks. So obviously Gary, and again, could it be better? Absolutely, man. Absolutely, it could be better. But again, I think it's nice to have Gary to kind of set that tone on the edge. And now let's try to get another piece, whether it's a 3-tech or an edge opposite of him, to really amp up this this pass rush. And that edge opposite of him, Tim, we've talked about it. It could be LVN, right? LVN could have a breakout year. He cracked the 11% mark on the entire season in pressure percentage. And I thought he played pretty damn disciplined in the run game as well at times. I love his wingspan.
Yeah.
Thing I noticed about LVN is if somebody gets in his area, he's going to bring them down. He's got, his wingspan looks like it's 6-7 foot long, man. So I think there's a lot of hope there. That's why I want us to press in a 3-tech a little more than edge. But again, if you go get Khalil Mack and throw him into the rotation, I have no problem with that either, which, people see 7.5 sacks and they might roll their eyes. We've been talking about Khalil Mack all offseason. Gary had more sacks than Khalil Mack. He had a higher pressure percentage than T.J. Watt, Max Crosby. He was a good edge defender. Contrary to what some people believe, I guess you could say. But anything you want to add here, man, to Gary?
No, I agree with that. You talk about Khalil Mack and being added to the rotation. It's like that's exactly the type of player he is right now. At this stage of his career, he's a rotational guy. He's not going to play 50, 60 snaps a game. It's just not going to happen anymore. So that's a chance for you to bring, a veteran into your group without kind of alienating the rest of your young talent. I don't think, if it's one of those things where, Khalil Mack has to be a starter. We're not going to sign him if he's not going to start. Well, fine. Let him be a starter. Let him play a snap or two and pull him off the field. Put LVN out there. That's kind of what we've been doing to this point anyways with the hockey line rotation. So I'm with you. I'm all for getting better on the interior and focus on a 3-tech rather than, edge as a priority. I'm not saying edge isn't a priority, but it shouldn't be nearly as high up on the list as, O-line or D-line, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Fred McFarley says Cox will only ever be a pass down mercenary, but I'm okay with it. Yeah, again, him leading the team in pressure percentage slightly ahead of Rashawn Gary, but Brenton Cox Jr. is definitely not a great run defender. I think that's kind of what Fred's saying here, right? One of those guys, mix it up, throw him in there, and let him get after the quarterback a little bit. So no doubt about that. All right, moving along to the next thing here. I think I had another article or something to hit on. Let's talk a few prospects here, Tim, if that's good with you. One of the receivers we talked about, who is not named Jaden Hicks, is our boy Trey Harris out of Ole Miss.
Yes.
And Brennan Rupp. Shout out to @Brennan_Rupp over on X. Go give him a follow. I just put this together here and said Trey Harris may be the next day 2 wide receiver taken by the Packers, question mark there. And Trey Harris, a big body receiver, and you see here in Ole Miss, a little skinny post going up and over the LSU defender and making that grab right there. And Trey Harris has got a lot of good traits. I just quote tweeted him and put, Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris currently sits 51st on our PTA big board. So when you talk a day 2, you're talking second round. That's right there in that wheelhouse, Tim. Yep. It seems like there's 3 or 4 wide receivers. In my opinion, there's 2 receivers that have a realistic shot to fall into the Packers at 23 in the first round, or you've got like 3 or 4 receivers in the second round. I would be totally okay with them taking there at wide receiver. But Trey Harris is an interesting prospect here, man.
Yeah, fresh off a 1,000-yard season, and he fits that type. He's my type, as I would say, right? He's 6'3", 210, right? Big body receiver, good hands. I think what we've seen of him so far, just doing a little bit of a film study, obviously you're kind of getting highlights only when you look through, a lot of college film right now, unless you're willing to go back and just watch, entire condensed games or something. But I think he's definitely, I'm not as excited about him as I am about Jaden Higgins, but I also know that the likelihood that we end up with Jaden Higgins is probably pretty low. He's probably going to get picked before we're willing to make a move at receiver. And Trey Harris could be one of those guys too. But it all depends. We don't know how aggressive Goody wants to be, with that position in the draft. We may not take one at all.
Yeah.
We talk about Scoot going down. that would, lead credence to believing that we should draft a receiver. But, we may go to free agency for a receiver. We may go to the scout team. Who knows? Somebody may get moved up. I don't know. I'm a Malik Heath fan. I'm a Bo Melton fan. Maybe we run with what we have. I don't know what the plan is at wide receiver, but I would anticipate second or third round being the extreme earliest that they would pull the trigger on a wide out, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels. And again, we've got a handful of wide receivers that I feel like that could potentially fall. Like some people think Terrell McMillan is not a lock for a top 10 pick. I don't know. We've got him in the 6th spot. If he somehow fell to the Packers, I would be totally on board with that. The next wide receiver on our board would be Emeka Egbuka, who's sitting in the 26th spot on our board. I would be okay with that one. And then Luther Burden out of Missouri in the 28th spot on our board. I would be okay with that one. The Matthew Golden talk at 23, that's a little too rich for me. We've got him at 36. It kind of feels like that's probably – I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers took him there. But if Matthew Golden's the best receiver on the board at 23 and you got all these 3 techs that have a higher grade on them, I'm probably going 3 tech over receiver.
Remember last year when we were talking about corner and we're like, get a corner, Goody, get a corner. And then, we got a corner with the last pick in the draft. He finally did it. It's like, I'm wondering if that might be receiver this year. And he just handles these other positional needs or depending on how the draft develops, right? Who's best available. Maybe we do take an edge. Oh my gosh, and then, 6th round, 7th round, you snag one of these other developmental type of receivers. But, at the end of the day, I think if we are going to get a receiver in Green Bay, it's got to be a difference maker. That's why, a bunch of us are on the bandwagon of bringing a veteran that's proven at this point. And at least we can name names this time around. We're not just, complaining about not having a veteran receiver, without naming anyone. We've got a few ideas in the free agent market and then a few big names here in the draft too. I mean, don't put it past anyone out here. I mean, you just as much as you could be a bust, you could also come into the league and ball out and take the league by storm in your rookie year too. We've seen it happen time and time again. So
yeah, absolutely. Next up here, something else we tweeted out from Football Insights at @FBall_insights over on X. Abdul Carter might have some company, and he basically highlights these edge defenders, right? And it's one of these charts where on the left side of the chart running vertically, you got true pass sets. And then on the right or on the bottom running from left to right, you got overall pass rush win rate, okay? He's got some of the top guys kind of highlighted here. And I just wanted to point out the guys he mentions, Abdul Carter, James Pierce Jr., and Mike Green, where they fall on our board is we've got Abdul Carter as the 2nd best prospect in the draft, going to be long gone before the Packers pick at 23. We know that. James Pierce Jr. is interesting. He's sitting in the 14 spot for us, right? And there's been some mocks where he's fell out of the 1st round. There's been others that he's went top 10. So we really don't know exactly where he's at. If I had to put money on it, I would say he's going to be closer to top 10 than closer to 2nd round, my personal opinion. And, of course, Mike Green was one of the players we identified right off the bat when we started our draft process here. As soon as the season wrapped up, he was one that was just like, damn, this Mike Green dude, he looks like the real deal. He's sitting in the 16 spot, so right around the same tier as a James Pierce Jr. Now, when you look at this chart and we kind of zoom in and get a little bit more detailed on it, it's about as good as I can do. You can kind of see some of the players in college and where they ranked, and there's some big names up there, man. In the upper right is obviously what you're looking for, right? Nick Bosa is in the upper right. Leatu Latu, I think is how you say his name. He was one of those 35% true pass sets, and he was over 20% in overall pass rush win rate. He was my best edge defender last year in the draft. And then, of course, you got Joey Bosa, who's a little bit lower than that. Nick Bosa's brother that went to the Chargers. I think they both played at Ohio State, didn't they? Am I thinking right, Tim? I can't see the logo, but I believe they did.
Yeah.
So essentially what you've got here is the only players that are better than Abdul Carter and James Pierce Jr. on this chart here is Nick Bosa and Leatu Latu. And I could see some would say, no, actually James Pierce Jr. and Abdul Carter are better than Latu because obviously the overall pass rush win rate is more important than the true pass sets themselves. So those two guys, and when you look at the overall pass rush win rate, Tim, according to these metrics here, and this is done by PFF, right? James Pierce Jr. had an overall pass rush win rate greater than Abdul Carter. So that would make you think James Pierce probably going to be closer to the top 10 as opposed to fall into the second half of the first round or even in the second round, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think Mike Green is, right there behind him, right? Probably going to be in that same kind of neighborhood. I was pulling up Mike Green's PFF numbers. I mean, guy's a monster, man. Really is.
Yeah, and Princely here, I can never say his name. Princely out of what school was it he was with? I've got him here on my board if I can find him. He's a little bit lower on our board. Here we go.
Uman Million.
Yeah, I screw it up every time.
Uman.
He's another Ole Miss guy, right? He's in the 54 spot on our big board. And he was the fourth highest graded edge defender in all of college football. When I took the information down, that's where they had him. Sometimes those do bounce around a little bit by the end of the year, or by the time the draft gets here. How it changes, I have no idea. Talk to them, not me. Consensus Big Board had him at 38. PFF Big Board had him at 37. 33rd team had him at 53. Dane Brugler had him at 75. So he comes in at the 54 spot. I would be totally fine with taking him with the second round pick if he's sitting there. I just don't want to touch him with the 23rd pick, you know?
Yep.
And he is one that's been linked to the Packers as well, by the way. So of the players we've mentioned so far, the only ones who have been linked to the Packers are these edge defenders, I believe is Princely. Yeah, Princely's the first one. So
the hell with what we want. They're going to take an edge.
It probably, I think the way they look at the edge spot here, Tim, is like if they're taking a look at these guys that are borderline second round picks and seeing, holy cow, maybe they're better than everybody thinks they are.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll pull the trigger with the 23rd pick. I don't know. But there's got to be a reason that they met with them. And we'll keep that updated as we move forward. One of the things I wanted to do tonight, but we'll probably run out of time, is I wanted to go to the big board. We'll do it in the morning for sure. Go to the big board, and let's just go down each prospect in order by ranking, the ones that the Packers have been linked to, and just kind of see if we find a little bit of a common ground there. So, again, Mike Green, then you got Princely, and then it drops off significantly to Jack Sawyer and Nick Scourton. They're a little bit lower, but they're all in the upper right quadrant for sure. So, notice the player you don't see there, though, is the kid out of Georgia. What's his name? Jalen Walker. Am I thinking right, Tim? Yeah, Jalen Walker. Yep. He's officially listed as an edge now. Well, he played a lot of stack backer. That's one I'm a little nervous about, man. There's people that are really high on him. Dane Brugler's got him as his third best prospect. Daniel Jeremiah has him as 6. 33rd team Kyle Krabs had him at 10, and we got him in the 26 spot. Maybe I'm just a little shell shocked from the whole Quay Walker thing because people were saying the same thing about Quay, like, hey, he can play stack backer. He can also rush the quarterback. We put him at stack. And obviously I think we would all agree it hasn't worked out the way we wanted it to for a first round pick. If Quay had been a third round pick, Tim, we'd be like, oh, Quay was a good pick. Yeah, no, yeah. I like Quay. But the fact that he was a first round pick, we obviously judged him a lot harder. So, all right. So there's a little edge talk. And we're all caught up. There you go. So we're good on Twitter. Let's hop over to the Patreon group real quick. I think we had a couple questions in there, if I remember correctly. The
VIP section.
That's right. So this is from our Patreon group. If you want to join our Patreon group, just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You get access to all the chats in there, and you can ask questions for the show. It works the same way as a super chat here on YouTube. So it's just a way you can get we try to hit all the chats we can, but you guys know it's a limited amount of time with the content we're trying to obviously cover here. Holmes says, Clay, are you guys doing the show tomorrow at the Ass Crack of Dawn again? Holmes, I don't know if you've been on the bottle or not, bud, but we've been going normal time like we always. All of a sudden he's complaining about how early we're going. Maybe it's just a weekend thing for the doc there. So
yeah, they switched his shift at the hospital, right? He's sleepwalking right now.
Blake B said, you on the West Coast there, Doc? So, could be, and that would be a hard thing to get used to for sure. All right, so in the Patreon group here, Greg S. says, do you think Goody's comments of, quote, increasing urgency will carry over to his draft strategy? Maybe he'll take a priority on proven players over the high athletic prospects. Will he deserve criticism if he continues to pick the latter? If he hits he will not get criticized. If he misses, he will get criticized. And that's the name of the game, right?
And even if he hits, he'll get criticized and then criticized again. And yeah, you can't do anything right if you're a GM in the NFL. Come on now. Everybody knows that.
I've been very vocal. I'm with I get the vibe. Greg agrees with me here. I would rather go with, if you've got a guy that's just got crazy good tape and less athletic, and you got a guy who's crazy athletic, scored off the charts, and less appealing tape, I'm going with the better tape. That's just me. But Goody, I feel very comfortable saying he disagrees with that. And who the hell am I to say he's wrong for that, right? Trying to think of some of the hits, and he does that real early, it seems like. You know what I mean? Like the early picks, they're just athletic freaks. Like LVN, I'm not willing to write that up as a miss yet. I think he showed promise last year, and he's finally starting to get a significant amount of snaps, even though he's still well under 40%. I think he's under 40% of the snaps last year. If he takes a step forward, I think he's got an opportunity to be a potential hit for Goody, but you got to get it going quick, right? Rashawn Gary, obviously, I think, was that a Ted Thompson pick? I'm trying to think. It might have been a Goody pick. It feels like it was forever ago.
I think Rashawn was Goody.
Yeah. Gary was a first-round pick. That's a hit. And there's no one who's going to be able to convince me otherwise. I don't understand the hate there. You guys know I've talked about that ad nauseum. Quay Walker, I think that was a miss as a first-round pick. That's just me personally. Jaire was a hit, right? Devontae White is kind of right there with LVN. He's just one year ahead, right? Mm-hmm. He's got an opportunity to prove that was a hit. We'll see what happens this year in that regard. Darnell Savage, that was a hit, right, Tim? Tim gets so mad at me for bringing up Darnell Savage every show. It's just, you're going to miss.
Hold on, where's Jacob when you need him?
Don't put that name in my mouth right there.
You're going to miss. But when you miss and then you double down with the fifth-year option, that's where I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like pouring gas on a fire, man. Wow. That still shocks me to this day. That's why it's like, I don't know. It's just tough to hear that name because we wasted so much time and money. Mm-hmm. It's not a knock on Darnell Savage. Hey, it is what it is. We all knew he was a good locker room guy and a good teammate. It was the being good on the field part that kind of let us a little, left us a little disappointed, I think. And then we were shocked as hell that they kept him around as long as they did.
And he was very, correct me if I'm wrong. One thing, if someone were to say you got to say something positive about Savage, my go-to would be he seemed like a really good teammate. Yep. And my second thing would be he was available. Yep. Right?
That's true. That's a guy that wasn't on the injury report a lot.
Unfortunately, he was available. The way you say that. Ron Sample, Savage was a hit in the bag. There you go, right? So, okay, moving along here. Chris in the Patreon group said, I've been criticizing him for years. He doesn't seem to hear me. LOL. Chris, man, you gotta show up at his office one morning, man. Show up in a suit and tie.
Don't encourage this.
Yeah. No, go to 1265 and tell them that you're with the IRS, make up a fake badge, and then they'll get you right in to see Goody, and you could tell him that he's a knucklehead for taking
like 3 different felonies you're asking him to do.
Yeah. And when it happens, when you see it on the news, don't try to tie me to it, okay? I ain't hearing it.
Yeah, so, you didn't hear it here.
You didn't hear it here, folks.
You didn't hear it from a fan right here.
Exactly. All right, so let me just double check these other Patreon chats. I know we got the general chat that's lit up. Obviously, nothing to do with the show there. Just everybody in there hanging out. It says CJN sent a photo in there. I'm scared to look at that, so we'll just go ahead and close that on out. But anyway, Tim, you got anything else you want to hit on, man? We'll get ready to wrap up here. I feel like we hit the important stuff tonight, and we'll be back in the morning, obviously, to talk some more Packers. I'm going to try to put a priority tomorrow on starting with the prospects that are linked to the Packers, and then if we do a second hour tomorrow morning, or we do whenever we do the evening show, we'll dive into Spot Track and how they've got the potential free agents and how they've got them ranked in terms of average annual value. But anything else, Tim?
No, I think that's a great plan. I like that. That way we don't – I get confused sometimes when we talk free agent and draft back-to-back or at the same time. So it's a good way to kind of put the prospects in a box and then look at these free agents kind of from a different perspective. But, no, I think it's great. I got nothing else except, another round of snow removal. So I'll enjoy the rest of my evening. You enjoy yours.
That's why we're wrapping up tonight, guys. We're wrapping up early so Tim can go out there and get some more shoveling.
I'm going to do some snow angels too, man. You know, going to have some fun out there too.
His wife's looking out the bay window, sipping a warm cup of hot chocolate, saying,
"He was the best guy around."
As he's out there frozen in the snow like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Just out there all. Anyway, you guys stay safe out there with the snow. Stay warm. I know Chewy hit me up. He lives somewhere somewhat close here in town. He was talking about how cold this rain is too. I would much rather have the snow you guys got than this. I'm telling you, I walked outside earlier. I let Lincoln out. Lincoln looked at me like, you've lost your mind if you think I'm going out here to use the bathroom right now. We're going to wait an hour. So everybody, like I said, stay safe. Hit that like button for us. We'll see you in the morning for Good Morning Lambeau, PTA Live, whatever you want to call it. We'll be back at 8:30 a.m. Central. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
There we go.
All right.
Bye, guys.